Bro, how did you make like the biggest change in your life?
Dude, it was getting hospitalized. So I got sick for a while, and it kind of was a point where I could say it was my lowest. A lot of misdiagnoses as well, for giving me the wrong medication, which made things worse. But, you know, I used to smoke. Drinking was an occasional thing, but getting sick to that point where I'm like, dude, this shit, like, health can be taken from you in an instant. And so that started a journey of transformation. I quit vaping, I quit smoking, and then I started working out. I started bulking, and everything changed from then. It also threw me on a journey of self-improvement, aside from the fitness side where it starts, also learning, educating myself. And I ignited this passion for learning, which completely transformed my life.
It's crazy, bro. So when you got into the hospital, you were like, oh, I gotta like really take stuff serious now.
Not necessarily. I was enjoying my time at the hospital. I was making videos, you know, I was enjoying that part, like, but no, it's like that internal moment where you're like, dude, I gotta get my shit together.
No, like sometimes those like, I don't know if you heard about this term FTE or like fuck this event. Like something happens big and you're like, it's time to like really make a huge shift in my life. Like for me, I would say, thankfully, thank God, like I've never experienced something like health related like that, but mine was mainly heartbreak. Like I would say first one when I was like younger, like in high school, and one was like a recent one was about 2 years ago. Those ones was like, okay, like I'm not a person to always blame the girl. I'm like, bro, you've made the mistakes. It's like your fault, you know? So you made a mistake at some point. So I took responsibility and it was like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do that. You know, physique wasn't on point. I had really no goals, no purpose. So it was like, it was time to make a shift, you know?
You know what it is about heartbreak? I've had my fair share of heartbreaks. And what I've realized is when you don't know yourself, you become so attached to the other person that you lose the little bit of sense, that little bit of identity that you had in yourself. And when that person leaves you, you're like, what do I do now? You feel so fucking empty. So that's when like that heartbreak is 1,000 times more heavier.
Yeah.
So now when I look at people, you know, and relationships, I'm like, well, you gotta love yourself, you gotta know yourself so that you can enter that relationship with the right state of mind, or else you're searching for something in that other person that you can only find in yourself. And if you go into that relationship searching for that thing, which is in yourself, that sense of fulfillment, that sense of peace that you can only find within yourself, it's gonna destroy you when that other person leaves.
100%. It's like a void that you can only fill yourself.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a void.
And then whenever you don't have that void like completed within yourself, you start like seeking from the other person, and then you get like you feel like you're expecting that from that person, and whenever that person doesn't deliver, you're like, it's all that person's fault, you know?
But also it's not just in other people, it's in other things as well.
Exactly.
You know, some people search it in material goods, some people search it in drugs. It's that void that only you can fulfill within yourself that we search in so many different things but we'll never find. Like for me, it took me going all the way to Mexico on my journey to figure it out. Dude, I came all the way here, but it's been inside me the whole time. This is what I've been looking for. So, you know, it's still a decent distance, but some people spend years and decades trying to find that, and they finally realize, like, damn, nothing can fulfill that void except you going within, you finding it within yourself.
So would you agree that like fixing the internal part, like your mindset, is like the beginning of any transformation, any change in your life?
I think accountability is the first part. And this is something more and more I've been starting to really integrate in my life, and it builds up where when you blame someone else for something else, you're giving away your power. Because if I blame you, then I just gave away any sense of accountability that I could have held, and that means you had more power over the situation. But if I take accountability and I say, yeah, you might have made a mistake, but I was the one who also did this that I could have done differently, I could have done better on this aspect, then I keep that power. And it's like inner power that you're like, well, I could learn from this.
100%. Yeah, it's like pretty much you are giving away the opportunity that you're like, it's pretty much like an opportunity for you to fix your situation, to realize your mistakes or take some lessons. But whenever you're like, oh, it's not my fault, so you just
Exactly,
give
man.
up.
You know, the one song, "We Get What We Deserve." That's literally what it is. The life you're living at this present moment is because you took all these past actions. And sure, not everything might have been your fault, right? You might have been in an environment that made you do things that influenced your decision making. But at the end of the day, you made those decisions. And if you don't like where you are, you have the power to change.
100%. Got it. Yeah, like accountability is like the first step for sure. But like, what about after that? It's like, I'm talking more like a system pretty much, right?
System, yes.
So do you think in going internal, like you're fixing your mental state, your mental blueprint is like the first step in your opinion?
Yes, but it depends how schooled someone is in a way. Because health plays a big role as well. You know, like you have to look at the body like a machine. It's a machine at the end of the day. And a lot of people haven't been given any instruction manual. But you can find an instruction manual, and you kind of learn to write your own instruction manual, because everybody's body is a little different. But at the end of the day, you're a human being, and there's certain things that you can do to improve that quality of life. So the mental blueprint really is taking accountability, and then meeting yourself, like accepting yourself for where you are now. So recognition, I think, is the first step. Recognition of the problem. Because if you're blind to the problem, you can't really do anything about it. You're not even gonna know there is a problem, right? So I can use the example from my own like path that I've taken. Is the first problem I identified was, okay, I smoke. This isn't healthy. It's impacting my health. And I'm skinny. I was really freaking skinny. So I'd always been skinny. And so those two things were like, well, what can I do about that? So I decided to quit smoking. I tried many times prior, you know, but it was that one moment where it's like, this time you finally start living up to your word instead of just saying it and not doing it. I think that's a big part of the problem as well, where we say we're tired of it, but we don't do anything about it. You say you have this dream, but you don't do anything about it. That doesn't change anything. But at that moment you say, I'm done, and then you take action on that, then change starts to happen. So I decided to quit smoking. And that was a difficult journey in itself, but ever since then, it's been over 3 years, I haven't touched nicotine. Simultaneously, I had to replace the habit. Because you're spending time smoking, what are you gonna do in return? You know, like, you gotta distract yourself. So I found the passion for the gym. And I started working out, I started bulking, I started gaining weight, I got bigger, and that was the shift right there. And then, when I really look back at my childhood, I used to eat a lot of junk food. I used to not care what ingredients were in the foods. And that is really important in the aspect of your body is a machine. So you need to figure out, are you putting the right type of fuel in your machine? If you put Kool-Aid and a gasoline instead of gasoline in your car, it's not gonna run. It's the wrong type of fuel. The same for your body. If you're putting in all those junk foods, dude, those chemicals make an impact on your brain. So if you're depressed, what kind of food are you eating? That's kind of one of the first questions you can ask yourself too. But one really needs to understand there's many different elements that impact it, right? Because the human body is a complex system. It's not simple. It's not one input results one output. One input can have 50 outputs, and half of those or a quarter of those can be delayed, so you're not gonna know until down the line. So it's figuring out which ones can you start with, which inputs from that system can you start playing with, and then see how it impacts the outputs.
I see. Did you take it more of like a step-by-step thing, or like in a way that, like, for example, for me, I went way into the future. I wasn't necessarily looking at it right now because my situation was way fucked, like just fat, playing video games the whole day, and like broken heart, doing nothing, you know, like being sad. Like I couldn't really even see what's next, right? I was just doing some stuff. But then for me, it took me to go all the way to the future. I'm like, who do I want to become? Like my identity, right? Like the self-image that you also mentioned. I had to go there to kind of see, okay, who do I want to become? And then as I figured that out, I slowly started figuring out the step-by-step part. That's what I'm asking for you. Was it just like you started taking the steps, then you figured it out, or you figured it out first and then you started taking the steps?
Even if you think you know where you're gonna go, you cannot say for sure.
Oh yeah, that's 100%.
So initially, yes, there was some of that visualization and that goal setting. I've always had very, very ambitious dreams, so it's been hard for me to relate to other people because I would tell them, like, you're crazy. And sure, I might be crazy, but might as well live life a little crazy than be fucking like everyone else. So there is that aspect of, yeah, dream big, but also make sure you have a plan to back it up because it's not going to fall on your lap. But really, I think it's hard to know for certain in a way. So you think you know, right? Or there's the saying like, you know what you know what you don't know, and then you don't know what you don't know. So it's like there's so much that I've learned throughout the last like 3 years since the journey started, where what you know now, you look back, you're like, damn, boy, you didn't know anything compared to what you know then.
Exactly.
So it kind of started with just educating myself. And then it's shifted. So what it is as you start getting into new routines, new habits, new patterns, new ways of thinking, it evolves, and over time, the goal is to make it more efficient. So for me, for example, you have like in the mornings, I would go to the gym. That morning routine over time becomes more efficient. Certain things get implemented, certain things get removed. And you kind of have to play with it because for each person at the end of the day, it's different.
Exactly.
So you really have to view it like a machine. I think that's the best way, because if you look at it, you have all these different systems and processes, and that life that you dream of having, like for most people, it's that nice car, it's that nice house, it's providing for their family. So it's like that life that you dream of having, bro, you need to be doing certain things that you're not doing now.
Yeah.
So it is that planning, right? You think about, who do you want to become? What values does that person have? And I used to have like a you versus you mindset. Now it's you versus the future you. But it's not even versing it, it's trying to become it.
You're just kind of working backwards because like you already know that person is doing certain things.
Yes.
So you gotta just replicate the same thing.
Exactly, that's kind of what you're doing. And now with AI tools, man, it makes it so blessed. It really is a blessing. It's a blessing and a curse depending on how you use it. But that in itself empowers me specifically in so many different ways. You have to make sure that you don't become too reliant on it, where the tool uses you instead of you using the tool.
Yeah, I get you.
But at the same time, like, it's a very powerful tool. So, there's different ways you can use it to your advantage. Like planning those habits, understanding those habits, and just viewing it as a system, and then prompting the AI to view it as a system, and then assisting you in refining it, essentially.
It's kind of like social media. You can either use it or let it use you,
Yeah.
So do you think taking responsibility back to like the mental model is like the first step, like the most important actionable step someone can take to start that journey,
I think becoming aware might come before taking accountability. Because you need to be aware of the problem
makes sense.
to take accountability, right? So like in my case, it's the smoking. So you kind of always know smoking is bad, but you just don't care. Really, that's kind of what it is, right? People who do negative things, they kind of know it's bad, they just don't care. So I think it might be first recognizing it's bad, but what is bad? Bad is something that just goes against your values and your beliefs. So it might be, understanding what you stand for, what you want. Like, why, for example, if somebody snoozes the alarm in the morning, why do they do that? They probably don't want to get up. They want to avoid life. But if you're excited about your life, you're going to jump out of bed.
Exactly.
You're going to say, I'm so ready for this, let's get this going. Because, man, when you wake up in the morning, you know the comfort. You know your mind wants that comfort. You want to go back to sleep, you want to snooze, but what's that going to give you?
Nothing.
So it's aligning yourself to that future version, but also starting to figure out what your existing beliefs are, what your existing values are, and how it needs to shift for you to achieve that what you want to attain. So once you do that, then you'll start to understand, okay, this habit I have probably isn't serving that purpose. Smoking isn't serving me being healthy. And in my case particularly, I was skinny. Well, nicotine suppresses appetite. So that's a conflict right there, right? And so with my journey, whatever habit I had, man, I really dived into the processes, the underlying processes that are taking place in the brain. Andrew Huberman's podcast is one that really changed my life. He's a neurologist, and he has a podcast where he really describes the processes that are taking place. So that's becoming aware of the problem. Once you become aware of the problem, you can say, okay, so this is what's happening in my brain. This is why I'm craving it, right? Atomic Habits was a book that was one of the sparking changes. It was probably the first book that I read as I started this journey. And that, I think that was a very important and key step. Understanding the habits, perfect. But that wasn't enough. You know, like my understanding of habits has evolved and deepened even after reading that book throughout the years. So, okay, you got habits. So this is what's shaping my life. Now let's understand the specific habits. Okay, now you understand why it's messing you up? Great. Now take accountability.
The processor.
Huh?
The processor.
Yes.
You gotta fix the processor first.
Yeah, pretty much.
I understand. Yeah, because sometimes certain things happen for you to realize, like you mentioned, like a realization, like you're like, okay, you gotta realize first, okay, I'm fucked. Then you can, like, it's time to make the moves, to make certain actions, you know, to better that situation. So after the mindset, I would say, you mentioned health is one of the most important things to take care of, you know, because it's pretty much the machine that you're, you know, operating in this world. For me, it took me realizing like years of like shame and like, you know, some people throwing shades at you, like to actually make that change in your life. And then when you start making that change, you start seeing the benefits. Sometimes it takes quite a while to see like those huge benefits, whether it's muscle gain, whether it's fat loss, whether it's endurance, depending on what your goal is. But a lot of people like struggle to go through that initial phase of like, you're not seeing that many results. You're not used to delaying gratification. You know, like you're just getting dopamine from scrolling video games or eating junk food or smoking or whatever. And sometimes it takes results to get that gratification from your results, actually, from the actual things that actually matter from your life, like whether it's fitness, health related things. I feel like a lot of people stop there because they don't see the results fast. How did you move past that part of your journey?
Yeah, so that's actually something that I've been looking into recently from that conscious perspective of, this is a big problem because people just stop there. You know, especially when you have access to all this cheap dopamine, you don't see the results of those actions. And those actions make you suffer in the short term.
Exactly.
But first, I think you can look at it from this perspective and it might help. You're gonna suffer either way. So if you eat that junk food now and you keep gaining weight, in the future you're gonna get heart disease and then you're gonna get a stroke and then you're gonna have all these other heart problems. If you smoke weed, you're gonna get high, you're gonna stay stagnant, you're gonna be broke, you're not gonna achieve your goals. So it's like, you might not suffer now. You do suffer at that moment of doing it as well, but it's delayed pain.
Yes, now I get you.
Yeah. So it's the opposite in a way, isn't it? You have cheap dopamine, which is delayed pain, which one day you're gonna suffer and be like, dude, I messed up. What do I do now? And it might be too late at that point. Or you have the choice of delayed gratification. It hurts now, you enjoy the benefits later. So either way, you're gonna suffer. You pick your poison in a way. But in terms of staying motivated, you have to understand the body. What is it? It's a machine. So the reason that you love these habits that give you cheap dopamine is because it's habits. It's ingrained in your brain. You have a neural pathway that's become so reinforced so many times, it fires very easily. Okay, you get the craving, time to smoke. You get the craving, time to eat a bag of chips. You get the craving, time to watch something. Stimulate your senses. And that's why it's so easy to do. When it comes to building a new habit, if you want to go from eating junk food to exercising, if you want to go from watching Netflix to reading a book, you have to understand that that's a big change happening in your brain. You're literally building new neural pathways in your brain. And it needs to become reinforced to become easier to do. The example that I always use is, think of the brain. When you're a child, you have a bunch of streets, right? You don't know how to walk. You're taking all these different streets, you don't know how to walk. Eventually you stand up once and then you eventually end up walking. As you stand up and then walk again, your brain goes from taking 50 different streets to the end goal, which is standing up and walking, to building a pathway, a highway, a freeway.
Yes.
So now your brain is essentially taking the faster route. Instead of taking 15 minutes to walk, it takes 1 second or 10 seconds, right?
Exactly.
So when you're building these new habits, you're taking all these different streets. And so it's difficult. There's resistance until it becomes a habit. When you wake up in the morning to brush your teeth, it's fucking boring. I don't want to brush my teeth, right?
Exactly.
Like you can say that, really. Why is it so typical? Why is it so automatic? Because it's a habit that's been ingrained.
You systemize it pretty much.
It's systemized and it's become incredibly efficient. That's what your body, your brain is super efficient. When you grab that phone and start scrolling, bro, that's quick. It happens like this.
So because you've done it a lot, that's why.
Exactly. It's been reinforced so many times. So you have to, I think, understand that, hey, initially, it's going to be difficult. So initially, you need motivation. The motivation is what's going to get you to take 50 different streets until you eventually reach that end goal.
Here's the thing, though. Like, a lot of people, they think they need motivation forever, but it's motivation, I kind of connect it to a feeling. And feelings are just energy, like emotion, you know, like they just come and go. So it may get you to start, but at some point they need to start understanding, like just like you said, you got to go through those highways to build it, to make it stronger. And then that you're not going to necessarily need motivation or a certain feeling to take action, you know?
Yeah, and then eventually it becomes automatic.
There we go.
So some people, there's a few I know, where you talk to them and they're like, bro, I got to come in here again. Like, that's the wrong mindset. You got to go in there saying, hey, I want to do this. Like, do you say, oh, here I am scrolling again? No, you enjoy when you scroll, bro. Like, I'm a victim of it too. And not even victim, you do it to yourself. You can't, like, assign liability. Like, you can't blame the system. The system is to blame. They designed it like that. But understanding that even gives you more sense of responsibility. I understand it, so I should do something about it. But it's like, eventually, yes, the motivation helps you get started. But the discipline is what keeps you going. Now, from time to time, you might start shifting away from that, positive habit that's aiding you in a way. For example, working out. So you got to be very conscious of that as well, because if you start, for example, skipping a workout 1 time and then 2 times, what are you doing? You're just readjusting the type of habits that you're going to have. You're building a new habit or reinforcing an old habit. So something I learned recently was that these neural pathways never go away. The strength of it just diminishes. So if you quit this habit of, for example, eating junk food and playing video games, that's still in your brain.
100%. I can relate
You
so
can
much.
get those urges here and there, right? I get the urge to smoke sometimes, but you have to not give into it. And as you stop giving into it, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Like they say, you never stop loving someone. You only find someone that you love more.
Damn, that's deep.
So it's like, it's always gonna be there. You always got the option to eat the apple from the tree. So it's like, you need to just recognize, hey, I have this inner power. So let me use it. Most people don't.
So long story short, you just gotta show up, because at the end of the day, like, if you
up.
give up, like, then those neural pathways are not gonna be built. So you just gotta keep showing up.
What are you gonna do if you don't show up? You're still showing up, but for the wrong thing.
Exactly.
You're reinforcing the same habits that are making you miserable.
That's the idea of consistency that I was like talking about, like in some of my other videos. People are like, oh, I'm struggling to be consistent. No, like you're struggling to be consistent with the right thing.
Yes, you're always consistent.
Yes.
You wake up every morning, you're consistently living, but are you consistently living up to your potential, or you're consistently being average? So it's always there. You have the choice, man.
100%.
Every single moment we're making a choice. Now you have to ask yourself, am I making a choice that's serving my purpose, or am I doing something that's not serving me?
No.
Like most people don't know where they're going. A cool thing. Actually, it's a concept I wrote down in my journal a few months ago, but I was reading it recently. Goals are like puzzles. You know, when you have a 5,000 piece puzzle, if you know what the picture on it is, you can slowly fit the pieces in the right way. But if you have a white puzzle with no picture, no clues of where you're going, where you need to put the right pieces, you might force a piece in the wrong slot, mess up that piece, mess up the surrounding pieces, and that's a mistake that you can't necessarily recover from.
It's true.
And that's similar to life. if you don't know where you're going, you might make a mistake that you can't essentially recover from. And I think we've been blessed with enough power where a lot of our mistakes we can learn from and still move forward. But you also, being a being with free will, you can make a mistake that you can't recover from.
100%.
So I think that's why it's important to know where you want to go, so that can guide your actions.
Yeah, that's what I meant, like initially, in the mindset phase we were talking about. I said, like, for me, it took me to kind of go mentally to see who do I want to become.
Exactly.
I didn't know necessarily everything, but like you kind of get an idea of where you want to be, right?
And you kind of know it in yourself, man. It might not be clear. Over time, I think it gets more clear, and sometimes it takes a lot of deep work, but you know in yourself who you want to be.
It's like in your heart, bro. You feel it's like a natural
it
GPS,
is, man.
bro.
You gotta touch into your intuition,
100%.
bro. And all this aside, there's like one key thing that beats everything else, and that's love. Always, man.
Exactly.
Loving yourself. By loving yourself, you can love other people. There was something I came across. It's like, if you hate someone else, you probably hate yourself. You can't do unto someone else something that you don't do to yourself already. You can't love someone else if you don't love yourself. You can't hate someone else if you don't hate yourself. So it's like, a lot of the time, we don't want to take responsibility, but we're the source of all our problems.
100%.
And the environment matters. I'm not pushing that aside. A lot of people are stuck in an environment that's so dark, right?
Negative, toxic.
But if you blame the environment, you just gave away your power in that situation.
Again, it comes back to
right?
accountability.
You know, I've heard so many success stories of people who said, I'm not letting this shit shape me. They lived in the hood, they lived in a town ran by gangsters, their life was in danger every day. But they are like, I'm not letting this shit shape me. Well, everybody gangbangs, everybody steals. Nah, I don't care. That's not gonna be me.
It's kind of like a test.
And it is a test. But those people, man, that motivates me. Recently on my morning runs, I play like motivational tracks, because when you hear all these different perspectives of where people come from, you're like, what the fuck am I complaining about? I got a roof over my head, I got food to eat, I got a car to drive, I got water to drink, I got access to monetary resources, I got access to the internet, which opens so many doors. What are you complaining about?
Exactly, why are we complaining?
Yeah, man. It pisses me off when I complain too. You get to that point, like, I think when you get to that point, it makes all the difference, man.
Yeah, like you were saying that, I'm like, that's what I do, you know, like sometimes you complain and you have like everything, all these resources.
Bro.
But you happen to be, I know America isn't perfect, but like you're pretty much in one of the best countries, you know, like we have no excuse to complain,
Yes.
like we have no excuse to say, oh, it's hard for us. Like a lot of people, because they haven't been outside, they don't realize it, you know.
Yes.
But long story short, you just have to show up to build those neural pathways to kind of program yourself to be consistent, you know. But a lot of people get stuck with their older distractions, their older addictions. Like for example, you have addictions in the past. For example, my age group, let's just say when I was in high school, right? People in high school, they have addictions with video games, for example, right? Or scrolling, as you mentioned. But it just wastes a lot of time. You feel good about it because when you do it, but you don't realize that it's damaging you. And you kind of feel like sometimes, yeah, it's not the best thing, but I enjoy it, right? You're like, oh, I just enjoy it. It's my fun time, free time. You know, they use that excuse. How were you able to kind of move away from those distractions, those addictions that kind of held you back, you know?
But you have to recognize it's still something that I struggle with. It's a daily battle in a way, especially with the scrolling, because being active on social media and the posting as well, you start validating the addictions in many different ways. You find excuses in a way. So what you have to do, okay, let me ask you this. Would you shoot up 3 syringes of heroin right now?
No.
Why not?
Just doesn't make sense. It's not good.
Why not?
I mean, I don't know what's it gonna do. Like, I don't know the downsides, you know?
Okay.
Dangerous.
What do you think it would do?
Probably mess up my mental system, my physical system. It's gonna have like, some bad reactions.
Okay. So essentially you associate pain with shooting up heroin, which is why you wouldn't do heroin right now. So we don't associate enough pain with those current habits and addictions. Well, addictions are kind of habits, except if there's a physical element. For example, with drugs, you become addicted, right? Your body becomes dependent on it. So with these habits, with that distinction, essentially. The addictions is if you're doing some kind of drug, for example, your body eventually builds a dependency on it, depending on the drug, right? The habit, for example, social media addiction, you can say addiction is that dependency is the dopamine, that sense of social validation that you're getting. So with habits and addictions, the ones that are not serving you, obviously, what is the reason that you continue to do it? Aside from a dependency on it and a physical habit, a reinforced neural pathway that's just repeating itself, a habit loop. You don't associate enough pain with it.
Exactly.
You need to, your values and beliefs are essentially not aligned with that future version of you and the current behavior that you don't want to do anymore. If you want to be give me an example.
Engineer.
An engineer. And what's the obstacle? What's the addiction?
Let's just say you're struggling to actually shift your focus to doing the homework, the classes, like collaborating with your classmates,
Sure. And the specific issue is, for example, you're playing video games and then you're drinking, right? So you don't associate enough pain and you don't recognize how over the time that's going to impact you from achieving that goal of becoming a great engineer. So then you ask yourself, well, I want to be an engineer. What's my life going to look like? What kind of values and beliefs am I going to have? And when you really get clear on that, now you say, I'm done running away from the problem. Well, what's this going to do to me a year from now? What's this going to do to me 3 years from now? What's this going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And you really visualize it. Social media is a great, easy way to use to do this because I look at my screen time. Cool. An hour a day? Great. What about over the course of a month? Over the course of a year? Over the course of 5 years?
It's crazy.
Over the course of 10 years, 20 years, and you divide that. Look at it at how many days is that? How many months is that? Might even add up to years depending on your screen time, man. And you like, bro, my life, memento mori. You're gonna die one day, bro. So what's this gonna do to me? Like, you really wanna spend days and months and years of your life scrolling? You wanna spend days or you wanna, with alcohol and drugs, for example, it's very easy too because it's the health effects of it, right? But that transforms into many other aspects. If you want to be an engineer, you got to have your mindset right. You have to be like showing up with your A game. You want to be a lawyer, you got to show up with your A game. Regardless, most careers, you got to show up with your A game. But if you're high all day, but if you're drunk all day, can you really show up with your A game?
No. You
can't. So you got to get clear, like, what do I want? And is this habit going to serve that purpose? And saying screw the excuses, bro. Like, oh man, that's cool. Because it's become so normal for you to drink, to smoke, to do drugs, to scroll, that it's like, for a lot of people, they find crazy ways to justify it. Especially like sleeping in. Dude, I used to, my minds, and I've learned from it. Like, I've gave into it to learn from it. It's justified skipping an ice bath in so many ways. It's justified sleeping in and snoozing so many ways. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, I can go to the gym later and then I can, like, my mind, I'll wake up and it's like, I'll brush my teeth. Okay, now the mind starts racing. How can I restructure the day to sleep right now?
Swear.
And I think it's a human thing, but it's learning to say no. To say it in a rude and derogatory way, you're my bitch. I'm not your bitch. The mind listens to you. You don't listen to the mind. The mind works for you.
Yes.
You don't work for the mind.
I just want to cut you off, my bad. After I finished 75 Hard, there was this 2-day, like right after, I was like, okay, I finished it. I've been good with my diet. Bro, I swear, the way I fucked my diet up, you wouldn't even realize how much bullshit I ate those 2 days. So like, actually it was like a day or two later, I was like, bro, I gotta create something else. So I came up with the Project 25.
Man.
So I had to like kind of was like, no, we're not going there. So I had instantly go back there. You know,
man, you do. Like, it's yes, bro. You have to, like, we talked about the neural pathways. It still exists in you.
Oh, exactly.
It still exists. So you're gonna go back to it. And like, why do they say, for example, weed is a gateway drug? Which I don't really believe, but for vulnerable people, it could be. Why? Because, well, you have this neural pathway just formed, which kind of deteriorates. There's this concept, I forgot the specific name, but in military is where they use it, where when a system, it has inputs and outputs, right? As the quality of those outputs diminishes over time, you adapt and you start accepting it. So, for example, if your norm with 75 hard is eating clean and doing 2 workouts a day, and then, for example, let's say you stop it and you're like, well, maybe I can have 1 cheat meal a week, right? So for 3 weeks you have a cheat meal and you kind of become, that's your norm, that's fine, that's acceptable. And then 3 weeks from then you're like, well, what if I have 2 cheat meals? And then eventually that, like, it deteriorates and it slowly becomes acceptable, that deterioration of the outputs from your system. And so as this continues and continues and continues, shit that when you were doing 75 hard, 2 cheat meals would be an absolute failure.
Exactly.
And then eventually you might have 5 cheat meals, or just every day you're eating crap. And you're accepting it. But during 75 hard, you're like, what the fuck are you doing? So it's like, let's say you're fine with weed. You're more open to something else, right? So it's like that system deterioration can always happen, where slowly you fuck up once and you are okay with it, you're more open to fucking up again, and then fucking up more often. And it's like that process that you need to really be conscious of, because it happens in many different areas of life.
You build a tolerance, like, you know, like with smoking, even like, it's like you mentioned, like your body kind of gets used to it, so you gotta up the intake, you know, like some people, they do certain things and after a while, let's just say with smoking, they're just like, okay, I don't really feel it that much, let me just add 2 packs a day, you know, like. And then you're like, it's been like months and you're like, wow, like my lungs are messed up, I'm on 3 pack a day, what happened?
Exactly, man. And also you have to recognize some systems have incredibly delayed outcomes. You might not see the results until a year from now, or you might not see the results until 10 years.
What are some examples?
Smoking cigarettes. You definitely have immediate effects as well. But what about when that heart problem comes? What about when that cancer comes? What about when you have to get that fucking box on your neck to be able to breathe normally and talk? You know, like, that's an example of very delayed outcomes. Same with drinking. What about when the doctor says, hey man, so you gotta quit drinking because your liver is failing on you, you got some really fucked up kidneys, and if you don't stop, you'll probably die within the next 12 months. That's pretty delayed. That doesn't happen overnight. And that doesn't happen a year from now either. Or video games, or social media, man. I think that's the biggest example.
Attention span, bro.
Yeah, but attention span aside, man, that's one problem, right? As you continue scrolling, your attention span gets worse. But social media, if you're spending 4 hours on your phone, for example, per day, 6 hours scrolling, what happens 12 months from now? What happens 10 years from now? All that time, that adds up, right? Sure, 6 hours is a lot of time, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. Sure, today you scrolled 6 hours, fine, acceptable. What about 12 years of scrolling for 6 hours?
But the crazy thing is, bro, like, it's too early that we don't even know what happens, because for how long has it been like social media, like 10 to 15 years?
So I love diving into this, because if you really look at it, man, we've been alive for pretty much as long as this evolution of technology, like the technological revolution was kind of happening, right? And so we kind of grew up as it was really evolving and speeding up. If you look at how much information is put on the internet per day, your mind will be blown. Every single day, how much information is added. And pretty much 90% of it was added in the last couple of years. Of the world's information, man. That's crazy. And people don't think about that. But yes, a lot of this is still new. the internet, man, dude, some of our parents grew up, some of our grandparents grew up when the internet wasn't a thing. So we have this widespread access, especially the younger generations. You've just always known it, so you think that's fine, it's normal. But no, that's not necessarily the case. So there's a lot of things that we don't know how it's gonna end up being. The results of these systems, essentially. One of the inputs, social media, technology, Wi-Fi, all these different inputs are gonna have results and effects that we really don't know yet. But I think you see social media's effect, for example, on socializing.
A glimpse of it, yeah.
You do see a glimpse of it. In various aspects. It's changed the social dynamics of friendships, relationships. Same with having instant access to calling people. I sometimes think that's a curse because, like, when family members call and they expect an answer right away, I'm like, dude, relax. Like, I don't want that instant availability. I think that's a curse in some ways because people think they should have the privilege. It's a privilege, man. I think everybody needs to understand that their time is limited, and it's the most valuable currency in the world. A United States dollar is a piece of paper. It has value because you give it paper, because you give it value. You exchange your time, which is actually limited, for a piece of paper that is created virtually on a computer with the click of a button.
Yeah, it's printed for fun.
Yes, it's literally, it has value because the masses decided it has value. Aside from that, it has no intrinsic value. It's a piece of fucking paper. It has the value of the materials cost that it takes to print it, but also after printing it, the value of that diminishes as well because, well, I can't write on it. It's not a clean piece of paper, right? It's dried ink. So when you look at your time, it's very, very important. So going back to the instant availability of social media or people's instant access to you, that's become the norm. Somebody calls, answer.
No, it's not good, bro. Because it messes up your deep focus, deep work sessions.
Of course.
You know.
Let me ask you this: how many of the over the course of your life? Actually, we'll use this example. Over the course of your life, you've probably had over 1,000 phone calls, definitely.
For sure.
Over 10,000. You know what I'm saying? Maybe.
Probably not. I would say so.
Okay. What about 5,000?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of those 5,000, how many were life and death situations?
Maybe one or two comes to my mind.
Okay. So how many of the 4,998 ended up knocking you off whatever you were doing, ruining that focus that you had built up, and eventually ended up taking up a lot of time and throwing you off track?
All of them.
Dude.
It's crazy.
Everybody wants our attention, bro. Everybody. Businesses want your attention, especially with like this device. It's given businesses instant access to your attention, which is why it's a blessing for them, a curse for you if you're a consumer. So you really have to protect your attention. But most people, here's the funny thing about it is most people aren't even aware. They don't even know what awareness is. So it's just wherever basically their attention is thrown left and right. It's like a football field. They're just throwing it. Whoever catches it, right? So they have no control over it. But once somebody wakes up, they say, no, I'm in control. Then you start being in control. Then you start protecting that attention. And you can't say it's selfishness. But at the end of the day, it is selfish. You have to be a little selfish because if your attention is getting thrown left and right, who needs you?
I think it just comes down to like we are in a world that just like our attention gets zapped so quickly. So we don't necessarily have to be selfish. We just have to put certain boundaries, certain systems to protect it. Because I realize sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to post this video on Instagram, and then I'm like, oh shit, someone Reels just scrolling for some BS, and I don't even notice it. But I'm like, holy shit, it's been like how many minutes? 10 minutes.
Yeah, man. And when you look at time, bro, if you really think about it, you can do so much in such a short amount of time when you're really focused. Like, when I look at it sometimes, you can play with time. When you look at time as a construct, Because time at the end of the day is a construct.
Yeah.
And we create it to help us function as human beings. I guess we can say it like that. But it's a construct in our mind because you think the universe has a clock?
No.
The universe is billions of years old. There is no time for them. Everything is just present, right? But yes, you look at it, next thing you know, 10 minutes passed. And what happened to that time? Well, you used it. You're not getting that back. That's the most important thing. You're not getting it back.
Now you're just saying this, like earlier we were talking about like the addictions and the distraction. You were like, people don't realize the pain. Now you just now that you explain it like in numbers, I feel that pain, bro. I'm like, holy shit, like all those phone calls that you said, like those 5,000 phone calls or like all those minutes of like wasting on social media. That shit is like painful right now. I'm like,
it is.
It makes sense. It makes sense now.
It is. So many phone calls. And what is most of those phone calls? Just fucking yapping. I love it because it's a word that's kind of become more mainstream now. And it's a beautiful word.
Master the language of Japanese,
Bro, everybody fucking yaps.
Especially if it's like a girl involved, you're just like, how's your day been? What's your favorite color? Like, bro, pointless.
Deep conversations are great. I love deep conversations.
Something like this.
But no, man, on the surface, but also like being in business, being an entrepreneur, so many people come and go. And it's like, you gotta protect that time. Like, I get annoyed because my email got fucking linked, the professional one, and I get so many emails offering random ass services, bro. Like, hop off.
Short form editors?
Dude, not even
everything.
Just different age. Yeah, just spam, bro. Because everybody sells. Look, we live in an age where data is king. I'll give you this example from today, man. I requested my detailed credit report from Experian. I'm not talking about the one you print when you just log in. This is one I requested. There's specific settings. They sent me like a 50, 60 page document. And on each page, there's about 30 different interests. Essentially, everything I've purchased, the banks share that information with categories to Experian. So Experian knows I actually have a healthy lifestyle. Healthy lifestyle, highly likely. Well, my tendencies of which cars I might purchase. Porsche, highly likely. This car, unlikely. I was shocked.
Because of your search history? Or
everything, brother. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Everything. Everybody communicates with each other. Experian works with the data, people who collect data. They work with hotel companies. They work with credit card companies. They work with banks. They work with government agencies. Like, it's a big network.
Bro, imagine.
And everybody communicates with each other.
Now that you mentioned banks, you mentioned also social media and all the recent data and the searches that we've done like in this past 10, 15 years. The amount of information and data we give to the social media companies, and you add that to the things that you were saying.
And AI. You add that to AI.
That's like
they're
insane,
using that
bro.
now.
They can pretty much read who you are, bro.
Dude, I promise you they know more about you than you know about yourself.
That's
promise
scary.
you.
That's scary.
Because why do you continuously go back? Aside from the research that's been done, social media companies develop their algorithms using also research from casinos. Because casinos get people going back. Essentially what social media companies do is they give you boring posts, in a couple boring posts, and then they give you an interesting one. So your mind unconsciously is anticipating a reward. So you're getting cheap dopamine from each scroll. But your mind gets a bigger boost of dopamine, which is almost like a jackpot at the casino or a small win at the casino, from a post that actually fits your interest, compared to a bunch of posts that fit your interests.
Yeah.
And there's been studies done on this. This is all engineered to keep you trapped. And that's just social media. Now, if you look at data, man, most of the currency, most of the transactions that take place in the world now are digital. What does that mean? Well, you can track it. When somebody signs up as a payment processor, I use Stripe. When I sign up with Stripe, I give them the category of my business. For each individual item or item that I have or service that I have, I select the category that it falls in. What is it? Oh, it's web development or it's consulting, right? That's all data. How much of each you sold? Now imagine that in a centralized place. All these credit card companies saying, hey, so you spend money on this and this and this and this, and this is this category, this is grouped in this category, this is grouped in this category. Now you're not the only one that's using a credit card. You're not the only one that's using a debit card. Millions and billions of other people are using it. So what can you do? Let's combine it. What are these people in these cities spending money on? What are these people in these cities spending money on? How much are they spending in this category and in this category? But with all that data, I can manipulate an economy. And if you think otherwise, and if you think it can't be done with all that data, you are living a lie. You are living a delusion. Because you might have good intentions, but not everybody has good intentions. Especially when somebody is in a position of power. We've seen what history shows us.
So much to dissect here, bro. Everything you said, this is like a conversation for like a different video, bro. Like it's the amount that we can talk about this that goes deep, bro.
Yes, it goes very deep.
When you said all this stuff, bro, I realized one sentence. If it's free, you're the product.
Always. Nothing is ever free. It's a principle in economics. If you're getting a free pen, for example, at a fair, somebody paid for that. Nothing is ever free. Something was always exchanged for it.
100%, yeah. Because I remember earlier on, before we even touched these topics of like addictions and distractions, you mentioned pain, and all this information that you gave, it just inflicted pain on me. Like, you gotta stop distracting yourself. So that's actually like a great way for people to understand, like, if you don't take care of your focus, if you constantly be distracted, if you let like addictions, get the best out of you, you're gonna be in pain. Yes. Whether it's in the next 5 months, whether it's next 5 years, maybe 15 years.
When you're on your deathbed.
It's gonna come. It's not like whatever you put in, you're gonna get out. That's just the law of the universe. So if you just do these actions that like are kind of pointless, life is gonna come get to you. Yes. It's gonna come, So you gotta be ready. And if you choose to decide, like, okay, I'm just gonna waste my time, I'm gonna scroll, I'm gonna eat this junk food, I'm gonna smoke this weed,
you're gonna get some results.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna get the results of whatever action you do. And even this, if you do your best, even if you don't get that end result,
you're content.
Bro, you're fulfilled. You're like, I did my best. And it might be a shame, sure, but you're fulfilled.
You gave your best.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think that's where they said, like, it's the journey, not the destination. Jim Rohn's mentor. Jim Rohn is a individual who's had a big impact on my life. I think I started listening to him, definitely changed my approach to life, especially that morning thing that I was talking about. You wake up in the morning, you want to be excited about it. You don't want to wake up miserable about a day that you haven't even started, which is a blessing in itself. So his mentor told him, make $1 million and become a millionaire, not for the money, but for who it will make you be, like who you will become in the process of becoming a millionaire.
It's a bar right there.
And that in itself is like, dude, wow, that's all the difference.
The process is the price.
Yeah, that's the price. It is the price. But it's also a gift. Like all those memories you're gonna make, bro. When you look, I made a video on this before. I used to play Clash of Clans. I was highly invested in that game.
One of my favorite games, bro.
I loved it, man. It was great.
What level did you get at?
I don't remember. I think Town Hall 8 or 9 or 10 maybe even. But essentially, I at some point I got a hacked version of the game. Believe me, I did not care. I did not play. I had unlimited everything. I didn't even care to build my village.
Unlimited resources,
I didn't care, dude. It's that patience that's required, right? Waiting to build the buildings. It's the patience and the strategy required to basically earn the different buildings, the different pieces, the different troops, the different materials, and everything you can buy, the upgrades. It's the patience, it's the time and energy that's required that goes into it that makes you value whatever it is at the end that you have.
That's such a beautiful example that you brought. It's like kind of like even GTA, like all these cheat codes you put on, like you kind of, you're like, whatever.
Well, I enjoy the cheat codes because that shit was almost impossible without GTA, bro. Yeah, man. I got I'll keep it short, but I got like $800 million, and then they took it away after I transferred it. But I bought a bunch of things, and so that cheat kind of helped. But going back to the Clash of Clans example, the hacked version I lost all interest in. Yes. Now imagine if life gave you everything so easily. well, you wouldn't value it.
Exactly.
The pain is what makes you value the joy of it.
And also what makes you realize to quit those addictions. Because it's like a double-edged sword, you know,
Yes.
you can use it for yourself or against yourself.
Yeah. And going back to the attention, I think this is very important. There's a saying that I'm going to also expand on. It says, either you build your dream or you're going to build someone else's. Now go back, either you control your attention or someone is going to control it for you. And I promise you, if somebody's controlling your attention for you, it's going to be in their best interest, not yours. So what do you want? Because they're not going to do it for you. They're not going to work for you. They're not going to quit the addictions for you. They're not going to shape and shift your attention in the right place for you. You need to do it. Nobody else. If I don't do it, so be it. But don't complain at the end, you know?
Yeah.
Because
this is what you did, so.
It's on you.
100%.
Like, hit that ego, bro. Take that hit to the ego, and use it as a tool.
To change.
Yeah, use it as a tool to change. I think the best way to start, regardless of where you are, is to, for one moment, actually sit down with yourself, with no distractions, with no place to run, and start to question yourself. Sit down on your bed one night and just say, what am I doing with my life? Am I happy with where I'm at? Would I be, if I die, I think death meditations are very powerful. If I died right now, if today was the last day of my life, would I be happy with everything I've done up until this point? And if the answer is no in any way, shape, or form, go deeper. What can you do to change? Where are you lacking? Where can you do better? Understand that you have that power to do better. You are a human being. You have free will. You have the decision to choose yes or no. Unlike an animal who is just running with subconscious programs, you have a conscious power to shift and alter those subconscious programs. So what you have to do is just ask yourself, how can I do better? And start small. 1% better each day adds up over the course of a year. Over the course of your life, it's very, very powerful. It's a very powerful approach. 1% better. Just, dude, if you sleep in every day and you wake up at 8 a.m., for once, wake up at 7:30. And then the next day, try to wake up maybe at 7. You know, so small action steps and they add up. Don't say, okay, tomorrow, let's say you smoke weed, you drink, you play video games, you scroll on social media, and you just have very incredibly bad habits. Don't say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start going to the gym twice a day, I'm going to start eating healthy, I'm going to stop scrolling, I'm going to build $1 billion business. You can't do it all at once.
It's like step by step, you know, because you may have big goals, but you need to kind of put it like in smaller bites to digest it,
Exactly.
you know? Because if you don't, you're gonna be either be like, oh, this is way too much. You're just not even gonna be understanding what is it, you know?
Yeah.
So you gotta make it small and digestible. And I would say you gotta have that belief and faith in yourself, because realistically, even we may say like we know like certain things, we know the end goal, or at least we have an idea. But sometimes something happens in your life, and you're like, I don't know, where am I going? But the only thing that you can do is just take those steps, go through the darkness to find that light. And most of the times people are scared. I was scared, you know, in different parts of my life, different problems that I was struggling with. And you just gotta have that bravery, that courage to just walk in that dark. Yes. And you never know when that dark is gonna end, bro. It may be like 6 months, it may be a month, maybe like 3 years, bro. But what are you gonna do? Stop in the middle of the darkness? No, you just have to keep going and like find that light. And it's kind of the same with fitness, you know, like it's a progressive overload, you know, like you just said, it's like a day-to-day wins. They build like a huge momentum, you know, like you can bench like 3 plates or 2 plates day one. You just slowly build it up, you know, it's the same thing.
Yeah, man, and with fitness, you have a systematic approach to fitness, right? Because at the end of the day, like we talked about, our bodies are just machines, and fitness has many inputs. And, you know, one thing I think is people shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. If somebody can help you and somebody's been through it, you don't have to necessarily go through it the same way, because what they know can help you and help you save years. Maybe help you save hurting yourself, help you save money, help you save time. And why not take advantage of that if you have that opportunity?
100%.
So, yeah, I mean, what's your systematic approach to fitness like? How do you work with clients when they come to you and say, hey, so I'm in this situation or I'm in this situation?
Bro, honestly, the main part we covered in this video, it just all starts mental, bro. Like, the first law of the universe is everything is mental. So what I always do is that just work on the mental. Like, who do you want to become? What do you even want to do? Like, people say, oh, I want to gain muscle. I want to build this crazy physique, or I want to lose fat. Like, they just say something, but you got to find out, like, the details. Why do you even want to do it?
Exactly.
Do you have, like, a certain pain? Like, is that an insecurity? Or do you just want to do it because you want to actually develop yourself to a better version of yourself, you know? Like, all comes down internally and your identity. So that's the first step I always work on, because if, like, it can be, like, doing surface level activities and actions, it may give you some small results, but longevity wise, because I know, like you mentioned, like, it's all about the decades, like 5-10 years, the impact that you're gonna have. So if you just do that little part in the beginning, bro, honestly, it's gonna make a massive difference. Because that's what I did. Like, I was fat as fuck. I didn't know where I was going, but I had an idea of, like, okay, who do I want to become? Do I want to have this? Why am I doing it? Am I doing it because I want to get girls? Am I doing it because I want to fulfill my potential? There's just reasons, right? So you gotta figure that out. And when you do that, bro, like, even if you fail those habits in the initial part, long term, you're gonna always come back to the routine, because deep down, you know who do you want to become. So that's what I preach to my clients, you know?
Yeah, man, it just comes down to the values and beliefs, really, because everything we do is driven by those values and those beliefs that we have internally. And I think you helping them recognize that is a very powerful first step.
100%. Yeah, and a lot of guys, they have different goals, but most of them want to build muscle, want to build that masculine frame, and that's what I do with my program, because I feel like when you do that, you can not necessarily internally change, but it gives you, like, an extra boost of trust within yourself, confidence that you can carry yourself differently, and because you achieve that, you can carry that to different parts of your life, you know?
Yeah. Powerful, man. Very, very powerful.
And I like the way you ask me all these questions, because a lot of people, like, they don't even understand, like, they don't have, like, a wide variety of thoughts and questions when they ask other people. Whenever they ask, they're expecting to instantly, like, give an answer just to share their perspective. But you ask me to actually understand my mind, you know? And something that you do that I notice is that you're very, like, you go deep within your thoughts and you are able to share them properly, you know? I feel like that's a strength that a lot of people lack. And if you can kind of expose yourself to a certain level of information, that you can get that level of skill from somebody, that's phenomenal. Because whenever I watch podcasts, I see somebody goes deep within a topic, I'm like, wow, I want to do that. I don't want to just say, oh yeah, yes, no, you're right, you know? But, like, whenever you expose yourself to, like, a mind of somebody that goes deep within their thoughts, I want to be there.
You have to, you know, there's a joint view on that, where there's the contemplation aspect, and then there's the spiritual view of it's just knowledge that you can just silence. And in that presence, I think there's something that you can find where no amount of thoughts, no amount of articulation can compare to. But I think when you go to that deeper place within yourself that exists within each and every individual, you can find something that transfers over to every other aspect of life. And that's, I think, how we started. We talked about that sense of fulfillment that one needs to find before chasing it in anything else. I think that's very important, because that gives you this inner sense of power to do whatever it is that you want. So when you know, I think the biggest change for me when I was younger was when I was exposed to the concept that nothing buys happiness. Happiness is a state of mind that you tap into. And then whatever you want, you approach it with a happy state of mind.
Already having it.
That feeling. Yeah, man, you already have, energetically possess whatever it is you want before you possess it in a material world. Because then you start to act as if you have it. And what happens is you're creating those neural pathways which are required when you have it, right? A millionaire has the millionaire state of mind.
Way before being a millionaire.
Yes, but if you create that neural pathway of I'm a millionaire before you're a millionaire, you start to reinforce it. And as you do these reinforcements, your subconscious mind eventually becomes ingrained, hey, I'm a millionaire. And then starts taking actions that are in line with that view and that belief. So physically, I'm not a millionaire. Mentally, I've been a millionaire for years. And I'm gonna get there.
Of course.
Because I believe in it, and I will take the actions required that will get me there. So it's like, yeah, man, that's my view on it.
For the type of information you're giving, I don't think personally you can easily find it on social media, you know? And like, there's like some people that I followed in the past, like they were giving great information, and it's kind of funny, but like a lot of it comes in the writing form, like not necessarily all these crazy edits and the visual effects and sound effects or like music or emotional, motivational videos. Like I find this on Twitter, like the tweets people post, or the emails, you know, like people do this type of things, and it's like, because there is no other distraction, it's plainly energy and thought in the writing form, you digest it properly.
Yeah, man, so that's why I'm trying to build out like the email list, where I'm trying to get both people who feel like they resonate with what I talk about and feel like they are destined for more, which I think each and every individual is,
100%.
Which is why I'm trying to put together that community. I'm trying to share what I believe in and have others, you know, share with me. That's why email for me, I mean, just getting it on that written form is very interesting.
Writing is powerful, bro.
Writing is very powerful. So that's what I do in terms of that.
It's wonderful, man. I think a lot of people can learn a lot from this video, because even I learned from crazy amount like from this video, so I know the viewers, they're gonna learn, because we put it like in a digestible format. It wasn't like some crazy, insanely mind-blowing things, some like Einstein type things, but it was definitely open. It was eye-opening enough for you to kind of sit and just kind of try to digest it and actually apply it to your life, you know?
I would say so. I would say whatever you resonate with, take it and run. I think the things that we talked about really open room to have some aha moments where you might have heard these things, whatever we're talking about, you know, a lot of the things we come across, we've heard it before, but it's just articulated in a way where you're like, wait, I finally get it. And so if you had those aha moments, you know, like take it and run. Take it and use it in a way that's going to benefit you, that's going to help you improve, that's going to help you do better. And really don't wait for anyone else to tell you to start, and just start. Because you have to start somewhere. You just have to jump into it. You know, like you talked about the darkness, you got to go into the tunnel in order to see the other side of to see the light at the other end of that tunnel. If you wait on one side, you're not going to see the other side. And I think there's a lot of precious gifts waiting on the other side.
Just gotta take that first step.
Yeah, man.
My boy Yero, it was a pleasure to have you on, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Great combo, man. Appreciate it.